So, this episode is going to be a lot about what have inspired me for the past week. Or no, it's the past week, but it's gonna be delivered in not chronological compared to how it has happened in the days, but more like in what sense I believe that it makes sense. Because I have been reading and listening to uh, four different books this week. Some that I've started, some that I've just gone back into, and stuff like that. Um, because I was inspired to try and check those books out, and also some other reasons why. But I have gotten more clearer onto why I do the things I do. I talked about in the last episode that I had a breakdown, and you heard that as well. I hope you found that interesting. I think it was a very interesting episode to make, even though I was so tired making that episode. Holy shit. um, and in those books that I started reading and getting into, I found more, maybe not more clarity, but more information about maybe why I do the things I do. So the first thing was that Friday, was it Friday? It might have been Saturday. It was Saturday. Saturday, which is like 2 days ago. I started reading a book called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus by John Gray. And I look down to the side because I have the book right here at my side. The problem is that it's in Danish, so the title is also in Danish, or the whole book is in Danish. So you would not understand if I showed it to you. But as far as I know, it's a rather, maybe not famous book, but it has gotten some recognition. I mean, I've Googled him and the other books that he's been written during the years, and he has written quite a lot of books, most upon this topic as well, about how knowing the differences between men and women can help relationships. And I was interested in picking up this book because I had a incident at work where I got very angry because of that. So I felt like I needed to delve more into how we function as people and how we function differently compared to who we are, what we have been, and so on. So I was home at my parents this weekend. It's Monday today. I got home yesterday. I went home Friday. And it was a book that my mother had and she wouldn't have anymore. So I took it because I was like, that's kind of interesting. And that's like months ago that happened. And I haven't touched it since then. So I got home, actually didn't think that I would read because I was so tired after I had worked 12 days straight. But I just was interested. So when I had a time, when I was home, where I was like, I don't know what to do. I was bored. So I just went in and straight grabbed it and started reading. And 2 days after, I have read almost 60 pages of it, and also listening to some audiobooks, and also started reading an ebook as well. So I'm a bit all over the place. I guess that's just the kind of guy I am, trying to connect dots, I think, and being inspired in different places. Because I also, sometimes I would like to read, sometimes I just would like to listen, sometimes I would like to listen to something else that is not as dense as some of these books could be. So I'm just I'm just doing a lot of things and trying to keep building knowledge and just keep reading because I've realized I have to, or else I will never read the books that I would like to read. So it was very interesting starting this book because I thought that I would learn mostly more about how women are, but I'm actually also learning about how men are. So learning more about how I am as a man and learning about how women are as women, what the differences are and how they can be tackled from the perspective of a man and from the perspective of a woman. That's actually that's actually pretty interesting and pretty fun. I really enjoy reading the book, and I think that's why I've already gotten 60 pages, even though I haven't sat down like okay, I did Saturday. I sat down and just read it. But otherwise than that, I haven't planned any reading time in my day because I rarely have time for it. So it just happens here and there when I want to, kind of. And I need to be better at planning it because it's very nice. I like it. But as I started saying, I was I was uh, faltering, or what's it wavering, I think you could call it, about my why it is that I want to grow and keep on growing. So in this book he says that it's very very common for men to want to make results, to keep growing and keep working. And I was like, well, I actually know this. I have just forgot it. So actually, the reason why I just want to grow and why I want to be better is just maybe not in my DNA, but it's kind of just what the masculine energy is all about. Because I've heard previously that the masculine energy can be compared to an arrow. It just wants to move forward, to fix problems and to become better and stronger and make results. That's the masculine energy. And that's why I want to improve so much, because I have gotten in touch with my masculine energy in ways that I never have before. And that's a good thing. And it's made me very happy to read this. And I did not expect to read this. So I'm going to talk about this in with the books that I've read for the past week, and about how I didn't expect to read what I actually read, which was fun. And there's also some, advices, of course. I mean, I've read like the first three, I might be in fourth chapter now. And he also says what you can do as a man to make your relationship with a woman much easier. And one of the things that you can do is when a woman is upset, she will talk a lot about her problems. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what women do. They talk a lot. While men, the opposite, they go a lot in their own world, in their own cave, and try to fix their problems themselves and not talk very much about it. So that's one of the differences, and that's quite funny. So, what a man can do to help his woman when she's upset is to not try to fix her problems, because all she wants to do is kind of vent her problems. So what he can just listen to it. Just sit and listen and be there for her, support her and comfort her about it, and just give her a hug. And that's the best thing you can do when your woman is upset. Not try to fix her problem, because that's actually not what she's trying to get out of it. But that's the mentality that a man has, that when there is a problem it has to be fixed. But that's not what he has to do when his woman is upset and want to vent off. I kind of knew this, but didn't know in what essence is. It made it clearer for me how to be done. So I was like, okay, I need to become better at listening. And then I, um, what's it called? I, all of a chance, borrowed a audiobook called Never Split the Difference by a guy I cannot remember. I think his Chris Voss is his name. He was FBI negotiator for like 20 years, 20 plus years, negotiating with terrorist criminals about hostages that had been kidnapped. And it's a book about negotiation. And what he talks about is that negotiation is actually uh, everything in life. You have to negotiate one way or the other in everything in life, kind of. Um, and he also said something that was very interesting. So, how to compare it to this book is that he says one of the important reason or one of the important things in negotiation is active listening. So I was like, that's perfect. That's just what I need. So all of a chance, it just happened to be the perfect book for me to start with. I've only listened to chapter one in that, and I heard that chapter two was about active listening. So I'm really, really excited to start listening to that. But today I've listened mostly to David Goggins' Never Finished because I need to finish that book. And I'm missing 3 hours, I think it is, for the audio book, which is also with a podcast delivered in it. So that's pretty cool. I like that. But what he also talks about in Never Split the Differences is about how feelings is more important when it comes to negotiation compared to earlier belief about problem solving, that it would have to be more rational approach to negotiation compared to a irrational approach to negotiation. But in his experience and what was found out, I think it was in the 80s or 90s, he explained it in chapter one, I cannot quite remember, was that if you try to have a rational, a fixed schedule to negotiation, you would fail negotiation because negotiation is very much in the moment and irrational, and there's no clear way to it. So it's not like something you can plan ahead, it's something you have to develop a skill to be there in the moment to negotiate the right way. And he was, or he is, apparently a really good negotiator who can get almost what he wants because of the techniques that he has developed. Because as he writes or explains, the techniques that he would use in FBI, they had to work, or else it meant human lives. So they tested and they tested and they tested and they improved and improved and refined it. And he got a I don't know. I mean, my English is very bad right now. I don't know what it is, but he got a scheme, so to say, that worked very well for him, and he used it in Harvard School, and he completely obliterated all the other students with his technique. His technique. So he cooperated with a lot of, or he cooperated with Harvard to make his technique standardized so it could be taught and that it could be learned by every other people because it was researched, his technique, and shown that it worked every time. If it was used correctly, it worked every time. And he said it worked on everyone, every time, anywhere. It was insane. And I'm really excited to get more into it because it is based on feelings. And as I talked about many episodes ago about the feeling brain and the thinking brain, is that it's actually the feeling brain that's in the driver's seat of our brain and not the rational brain, which also was thought earlier before that it was the rational brain that was in the driver's seat and the emotions were just there and doing weird stuff. But and then he mentions a book that I actually have here on the shelf, which is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman, wow, well remembered. Where he just gives a brief summary where he says that Daniel Kahneman actually emphasizes that we have two kinds of thoughts or thought processes, which is fast and one of them is slow. The fast is the emotions, the irrational, and the slow one is the rational, the thinking brain. And it's actually, as also have been discovered, that it's the fast and irrational that's in control, that has more power over the slow and rational one. So if the fast and irrational is triggered, it's just like, and a decision is made or remade. And the thing that he also talks about is that when he was in that Harvard class, taking it with other students, it was like that he had a new new technique that was just way more powerful than what they had learned in their school books and such. And one of the things or one of the reasons why he me think that was that a lot of business theory, and I can agree to this because I've studied business theory in my bachelor, in my master's degree, is that a lot of that theory is based on rationalism. That subjects and people are rational in their decision making, which is not true in the real world. In the real world, people act upon irrational decisions because we are controlled by our irrational brain, and we can affect our irrational brain with our rational brain, but it does not always work. If you are able to control it, you have come a far way. And I've realized that believing that myself am more irrational person with the things that I do and the decisions I make, I now also see and now also better understand why I have had such a hard time before, because I am also irrational. I am not something special. I'm as you, an irrational animal, and that's just the truth. And that also kind of made me more calm and had made me more relaxed since I read that and understood that I am irrational as well. And I should not beat up myself for being irrational. It's completely normal. But I still want discipline and hard work, and I will get back to that um later when I'm going to talk about David Goggins Never Finished, because I've listened to that a lot as well. But I just think it's very interesting because what I've realized this past week is that everything comes down to feelings. How well I, as a being, are able to handle feelings, how well I am to handle feelings, and how well I am to understand other people's feelings and handle those as well, or maybe to tackle those feelings. And that's kind of what it is in the negotiation technique, Never Split the Difference, that it's about setting yourself in the place of another human being, in their position, trying to get into their mind, into their feelings about what do they want and how can I make sure that they think they get it without actually getting it. And that's pretty interesting. Or maybe, no, what he talks about is how he can make people negotiate with themselves about making them feeling bad in the position that he's in as a negotiator. Like, how can I have problems doing what you ask me to do? How can you solve my problems? Because I cannot solve them myself. How can you solve them? And that makes the other person in the negotiation way more out of their bounds and like questioning everything they do and make them more obliged to just do the thing the negotiator asks for, which is very powerful. And it's kind of cool. I really think it's interesting, and it was by coincidence. I mean, I know about the book. I wanted to read it, and it was available. I could just borrow it, so I did. And I was like, meh, I'll just give it a try. And it's really good so far. And I'm not even into the actual technique yet, But it starts with active listening, so I really should start listening to that. But as I said, I have been reading and listening to other things today. So I started Never Split the Difference yesterday. So it's very new. And actually this episode, I think I felt it was about to I wanted it to be about what I've listened to in David Garg's Never Finished, and it will be, because I think it ties up to this, which is very beautiful. And I really like that. It's when everything's just like ding, 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 when the puzzle just gets in the right place. Oh, I love that. It's amazing. So, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and never split the difference. So, when I realized that it's all about emotions, I have realized this before, but I mean, I always falter and forget things, and I have to keep reminding myself about them and remember them in new ways, learning more about them, and so on. So, I know about the books of Daniel Goleman, which is called the Emotions Intelligence and Social Intelligence. I've also talked a bit about these before in earlier episodes. And I know that my mother have social intelligence, which is how I came to know these books. And I was like, oh man, I really need to read this now, because I read in a section about how to trigger, or not how to trigger emotions or love, but how it was in social settings. And I think that was very interesting, because I mean, I want to learn about that. So I was like, oh man, maybe I should write to her if she could get it in here somehow. But instead, I went to the library here in Denmark, and I was like, maybe it's there. And it was. And I could just borrow it immediately. So I did. And I read it. And I have kept reading the section that I remembered. And it's quite interesting how it can be tested in the brain, and how it functions in the brain when it comes to love, affection, attraction, and I don't know the word in English for that. That's annoying. But yeah, how you get connected to another person. And it's like, it's not that it's very different from being in relation to other people like friends and family, but the strongest relation that we do have is in the end our love and romantic relationships. So it's there that our ways of connecting people is connecting with people is the strongest, and therefore also why it's mostly test, so to say, or why it might be mostly interesting to analyze and research. Man, my English is way off today. I don't know why it is so. um um I'm also smacking. I'm sorry with these bad speaking habits that I have. So I borrowed that, and I read that, and I've also borrowed or gotten in line to um emotions emotional intelligence. I can never remember what it is. Emotional intelligence, which I am quite excited to start reading. So if you're curious, I am right now reading two books. I am listening to physical books, and I am listening to two audiobooks, and I am reading one ebook. So I am a bit busy with books, and it's a fault that I have, that I start a book, and then I realize, or not realize, but have the feeling that this is not what I need to hear right now. So I stop, and then I start a new one. But it was different this time, actually. This time it was like, okay, something happened. I started reading a book, and I just searched for more book, and coincidentally happened upon another book that I just started, and it fit together with what I had read, and that made me want to dive into other books, to start new books. That's kind of interesting. So it has been kind of a chain of connections. That might be why I think it's so interesting talking about this right now, because it has been a chain of things that have happened and what I've explored to just keep on exploring in new ways. So I also just need to remember to finish the books that I start, which is why I have listened mostly to David Goggins, Never Finished Today, to finish it so I can get into the other books. And I also wonder if I should start thinking fast and slow. But now I'm like, okay, I should not start new books at the moment. I have plenty. And also I do have like 10 or more audiobooks that I've started that I've not finished. And what's annoying is that I started them from the Plus catalog and I didn't finish them. And now it has been apparently months, and then they have been taken out of the Plus catalog. So now I have to use a credit to finish them. So I'm like, damn you, Audible. So right now I'm not going to finish them because then I'm going to use a credit, and I would like to use a credit on other books like Captivate and Man's Search for Meaning. And now I haven't to use one on emotional intelligence or social intelligence because I have borrowed them from the library. It's in Danish, which I don't mind because I might have read it. The one that my mother had is in Danish. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll do it like that. So, and also because the emotional intelligence, it was the unabridged recording I read from the reviews was very bad. And the abridged was read by Daniel Goleman himself. It was only 3 hours. It would be only like 3.5 hours long. And I felt like there would be a lot missing out from the book, audiobook, or the real book itself. So I think it might actually be better to just read in Danish the book, because if I would have to get the book in English, I would have to buy it from like Amazon or some sort, which I don't want to. I mean, look at all the books I have, and I haven't read any of them. I've read some of them. I've read the Harry Potter ones down here. I might have read one out of these standing here. So I've said to myself, let's just dial down on the books a bit because of space issues, and also reading. I haven't read a lot of the books that I have. So, and I have spent too much money on books that I end up not reading, and it's not good. I have to stop doing that. So getting it for free is way much better. Where I can just, read it if I want to and not if I don't want to. And I want to read it, and I just have to finish it as well. I have problems finishing things as well. I have found out that I am pretty good at finishing things, but there's just times when I'm like, man, I don't want to. And Mark Manson have said, if you don't like a book, you don't have to finish it. So, for example, I started War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, and it didn't connect with me at all. I cannot remember how far I got into, maybe a couple of hours or so, and I was just annoyed by all the characters. I mean, I just couldn't finish it. And why I started it was because I got a bit into philosophy, and I was a bit intimidated by starting reading the, maybe not the original text, but maybe just starting reading philosophy because of how dense some of the what you say, how dense some of the books would be about it. And I know about that, not only because I've dialed a little bit into it, but also just from no one wants to read philosophy because it is so dense. So I thought I might start with fictional human philosophy, which is, I mean, what's he called? Friedrich Nietzsche have written a fictional philosophy book, which was not recommended to start with because it is kind of weird. I cannot remember why, but maybe because it was like his ideas was not explained, they were more like hidden and between the lines. So you have to start another place when going into Friedrich Nietzsche and extensionalism. So I did start with Leo Tolstoy without knowing it. I read Anna Karenina like years ago because my mom had it. So I was like, interesting. Let me try and read it. And it was okay. I think it was a tough read because I was bored many times because I think that it's too long and some of the characters didn't connect very well with me. I liked Lenin a lot. I think he was fun following, but also a lot of his sections was also quite long. So when I was going into War and Peace, I was like, I'll just give it a try because I had just finished Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Djukovsky. I don't think that's right pronounced, but also a Russian philosopher and writer. And the human psychology aspects in his book and also thriller elements, they were just amazing. And it honestly has potential to be the best book that I have ever read because of how the aspects of the characters are. None of the characters are like all good, but none of them are like all bad either. They are mixed in what they want and what they do. And it was very interesting. It was like, do I like this person or do I? Well, he did this, but he actually also did this, which is kind of good. So I don't. It was just. I think it was amazing, to be honest. It was a bit complicated, which I kind of like. I like complicated books because if it's too easy and I can predict what's happening, it doesn't tickle me. I don't feel it at all. It's when I still watched television shows, movies, and all that stuff. I felt like I could predict a lot of the things that were going to happen, which ended up boring me. So I kept on looking for crazier and crazier things because I couldn't predict it. And it was just so weird at the end. And maybe also this Crime and Punishment, it's weird. It is crazy. But in a more toned down way than today's crazy is. If you watch anime, I you know what I mean when I say it's crazy. It's crazy. So also because it's so old, it's like from the late 18th century. It has more than 100 years on its back, and it was just so good. It really impressed me a lot and made me realize that just because something is old doesn't mean that it's bad. I mean, War and Peace, that just weren't for me. I mean, an audio recording of 60 hours, and I didn't, it didn't connect with me immediately. I was like, I am not gonna do this. It's easier to do some things that like 8 hours or 12 hours. And when it connects, like David Goggins never finished, I believe it was 12 hours, about 12 hours. And I immediately connected with it. I knew I would because I loved his first book, Can't Hurt Me. So I knew that, okay, I'm going to finish this no matter what, eventually. Not like back to back. Like, I think Crime and Punishment it was a recording of 22 hours, and I finished it within a week. I just listened to it whenever I could. I loved it. It was so good. And also Wild, which I've talked about earlier, by Cheryl Stray, I also finished within a week. It was only like 12 or between 12 and 14. Yeah, 14 hours. I cannot remember how long, but it was also just so good. Loved that story. It has nothing to do about philosophy or psychology, but it was just really a really good, real human story, which I found out I actually like a lot, because there are secrets to learn in others' stories and what they have, what they can tell of what they have been through. I think that's very powerful. That's why I listen to David Goggins, and I have listened to Matthew McConaughey, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and also Wild by Cheryl Strait. And I mean, Mark Manson's book is, it's not about himself, but he does talk a lot about things that he have been through and how it has affected him, and how it has made him realize a lot of stuff. And I'm also in queue for Will by Mark Manson, even though there's been a lot of controversy with Will Smith about the slap. I do want to read it because I was into Mark Manson this summer a lot. I swallowed 3 of his books and also a lot of his content, both YouTube and articles. And when I heard what he told about Will, and I was just curious about what he said about the incident with the slap. And in that article where he wrote about his comment on the slap, he said that one of the first lines of the book was in the lines of that Will Smith is not the guy that you see on television and on movies. That's a shell that he puts on, or a mask that he puts on. He's actually a very he's a guy from, I don't know how to say it. He's not, apparently not that confident in himself, but he has grown a lot to the place where he's like, or has been, one of the famous people in the world. And that was also what Mark found out writing this book with him, that he's actually a really, really nice guy and not a prick that you might think a Hollywood star would be. And I think that one of the reasons that I didn't want to get into the book was that it was 16 hours recording, and I'm like, ooh, that's a lot. Do I feel the urge to get into that book that much? And at the moment, no. Now I am here in some days, here in start of December. I believe that I would be able to listen to it, and I will. I will. Funnily enough, I will listen to Will, because I think there's lessons to be learned from his story, even though I don't know it. I just have the feeling there are lessons to be learned, which is what I'm all about. Learning lessons both from others and from my life. And that's okay. Now we are going back to what I heard in David Goggins, because I talked about last time that I would like to humble myself because I have a lot of things to learn. Well, guess what? In a chapter in David Goggins' book Never Finished, he talked about trained humbleness, or trained humility, it's called, where he talks about how people get too much of themselves and need to be more humiliated, or be more humble with themselves. Because when people rise to the top, they suddenly forget how they got there and think there are a lot of things that are beneath them, which is what I don't want to be. I mean, I do want to grow and want to become better and gain a life for myself that I'm proud of and I am I'm actually very proud of my life right now, what I'm striving towards, and so on. But I want more. I am thirsty for more, and now I understand why. That is just my masculine energy that just keeps pushing me forward, and I don't want to stop, because, as I also said last time, I have never been happier than I am right now, or had felt like more alive than I am at the moment, doing all these things and just keep working hard and be disciplined. And discipline is also enough things we talk about. But the humble thing, it struck me a lot. Both I mean, a back-to-back chapter, he talks about both how discipline has saved him a lot of times and made him become the person that he is today, and how he wants to strive to train humility, how he still wants to be humble even though that he has achieved so much so far. He still wants to be humble, and I really felt those two chapters, because that was exactly what I wanted to do as well, or it is what I want to do as well. And he just spoke about it as like that was what he wanted to do as well. And I was just so, I was like mind blown. It was just incredible that to find out that he just wants the same as I wants. Have I been inspired by him? I have been inspired by David Goggins, but these things was before David Goggins, which is what kind of amazed me still, that a lot of the things that I have thought about was during my concussion, about what I want to do and how I want to be. And that was without the influence of any medium, because I could not read any medium. It was just me and my own thoughts. And I've also big fan of Alex Hormozy. I haven't consumed any of his content lately, because I have been elsewhere in other content. And what he talks about is that he had a period of like 1 year in his life where he hadn't much to do, because he had to wait for things to happen. So he spent a lot of time thinking about what he wanted to do. And what he came down to, what he found out, was that on the days where he had felt the best was when, that, as he explains, is when he had nothing else to give, when he had give all he had, which means he has worked his ass off. And not that I feel the same experience, but I want to work my ass off, because I see now that that is where the real joy is. That is feeling inspired to keep doing something on and on, again and again and again. What I would aspire to in the past was complete freedom, to not be able to do, or not be in need to do anything at all, to just relax if I want to do that. And I see now that is not the place of happiness or the place of joy, the place where I want to be. The place that I want to be is eternal growth. I want to keep growing. I want to never arrive. I want to always work as much as I can. Work as much as I can and never settle. Because that's what I believe is what life is about. That was a lot of these, you get it. That it's about feeling inspired. It's not about feeling satisfied. It's about feeling inspired to keep moving on down the road and to never settle. And that just fires me up so up. And I hope that I will never stop growing. And I believe that I will, because I am just, as I said last time, I would hate myself if I would ever stop growing, because it's just so big a part of me now that I can't let go. I mean, it is at the moment my sole reason for going. It's for growth, to keep growing, to keep pushing, keep working hard, keep being disciplined with the things I am doing. And now I am more clear about why. It is just what I do, what I am as a man, as a masculine being with masculine energy. That is just masculine energy. So there has not to be any reason why. That's just how it is for me, at least. And if you are someone with a masculine energy, if you are a man with a dominant of masculine energy, and if you feel lost, I think that is because you don't, in the place you are in your life right now, you are not working your ass off. You are being hesitant, and you are doing a lot of other stuff that you might not should do, like watching porn, playing video games, watching television shows, and not growing, not moving forward, not doing anything. That's not masculine energy. Masculine energy moves forward. And if you are not in the essence with your or with your dominant energy, if it's masculine, you need to move forward and find a way to move forward. Because when you do, you will feel so much better. And why I tell you this is because I have been in the exact same place. I have been in a place where I did not feel good. I felt depressed. I didn't have a depression, but I felt miserable, should I say instead. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get out of it, and how to what I had to do to feel better. I thought it was getting a girlfriend, and I got a girlfriend, and it was nice for a while, and I still felt miserable about myself. So it was not getting a girlfriend that solved it, and I think it neither will for you, because as a man, getting a girlfriend should not be the end goal of your life. The end goal of your life should be to keep growing and to keep sharing your gifts and what you want. No, not what you want, but sharing what you can in this life, sharing what you have to give to this world. Keep growing, keep building yourself, and share it. Share your gifts, what you can do. It can be anything. If you're good at drawing, keep drawing. Do it all the time, how much as you want to, and share it. Post it, give it to people for free, sell it. I don't know. And it's with anything else. If you're good at selling, keep selling. I mean, if it's your job, keep selling. It doesn't matter. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter what you do and what you want to do. You just have to do it and give it all you have and give it your best shot. So I don't know how I want to end up sharing my gifts. And honestly, I don't care how it's going to end. What I want to do is that I want to keep growing and keep building myself. And I want to be in some way or the other in services of others, to help others in what way I can, in what way possible. Right now, I do it through my work, where a lot of people go to the gym I work in, and I have to make sure that the gym is functional, that it's clean, the machines are working, that I can help members get into the gym and make sure that memberships are in order. If they want new memberships, if they want to cancel, I am in the service of others at the moment. And I think also that is one of the reasons why I like it so much. And I'm also doing it through this podcast, or at least trying to. I know I talk a lot about myself, but I hope that you, in listening to my thoughts and what I'm going through, can learn something and get inspired by it in the ways that I, for example, listen to David Goggins. His story. I mean, he has, certain things that you should be doing compared to what he has just told about his story. I don't have that yet. I might get at some point. Right now, I'm just talking a lot about the things that I realize what is happening to me at the moment, things that I realize. And I'm just sharing that because I think whenever I get smarter, and whenever I learn new stuff, I think that you should learn it too, to keep getting better as well. That I won't share it for or keep it for myself because I have no right to keep it. I just want, and that's, oh, that was so good. I know it was Mark Manson, and then it was another one who says, when you have some knowledge that can benefit others, it is, you are obliged to share it and not to keep it for yourself. And that's also one of the reasons why I do this. Even though I don't make any money from it or anything, I don't care right now. This, I want to do this, and that is why I do it. And it's a process. I know that. It's only the 16th episode. Alex Hormozy has done, I think it's close to maybe above 600 episode of podcast, and he also has many YouTube channels. I believe in one of his videos he said that in a year they had made 35,000 pieces of content on multiple mediums a year. That's like, okay, it's not 1,000 a day, but it's a lot. It's like really many pieces of content. It's like crazy. And I just do this. This is what I do. And I also post my shorts, and that's it. So it will take time. I know that. In this book that I mentioned last time, How to Become Famous as a YouTuber, one of them also, I mean, I skimmed it after I've talked about it because I was interested about the things that was in that I could not remember. And one of them said, keep going, even though no one's listening. You have to keep going if you want to, because it took her something like 3 to 4 years of keep posting before she started to get exponential attention. So you just have to keep on, you just have to keep doing it, which also what they say, both David Goggins and Arnold Schwarzenegger as well, and Alex Hormozy. Repetition, put in the reps, the hours to keep doing it. That is the most important thing. And that is what will get you to where you want to be. It's not how smart you are. It's not how intelligent or how good looking you are, how much money you have. It's about how much work you are willing to put into it. Damn, I just got fired up. Holy shit. It's about work ethic. How much you are willing to put into it, how much desire you have for it to do it, because that is one to keep you doing it even though you don't even want to. Oh, that's just amazing. And I think that was actually what I had to say from this episode. I will hopefully keep reading. I mean, I'm gonna start working again. Most of these things that I've talked about has happened in the course of 3 days. Because when I work and I do a lot of practical stuff beside work, and I don't have much energy to read or listen to audiobooks because I would not get anything out of it because I'm so tired. It's a physical work, and I'm working my ass off, and I'm told to take care of myself, to not push so hard, but I just can't because I want to push myself and I want to push my limits. And I have felt that my limits have been pushed. They have moved themselves, not themselves, it's because I've pushed them that they have moved. And that's why I want to keep pushing the limits. Because maybe at some point when I have pushed my limits so far, I have the energy to still work and also keep reading and keep listening to audiobooks and get something out of it. Which is why I just keep pushing to learn, to grow. That's honestly why I do it. And I do it through my work. And I'm going to end this episode. So, next episode, I have no clue what to talk about. But we'll see what happened during this week. As far as I can see in my schedule, it looks like that it will be a week from now that I tape or record next episode. So a lot of things can happen. I can be inspired by many things. Even if I read, there's a good chance that I'll be inspired by something. So let's just see till then. And while you're waiting for next episode, while I'm doing my stuff, I hope you have a good time until then. Bye.